Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is Wednesday, and all of today's guests, including John Shannon, standing by, are brought to you by the Vancouver Canadians. Caesar coming off a 5-1 win against Spokane last night, looking to keep it rolling for the remainder of their homestand. This weekend includes a Friday nooner. Saturday features a visit from Jays alumni Pat Borders and Todd Stottlemyre. And Sunday, kids can run the bases after the game as part of White Spot Family Fun Sunday. Caesar, they're hot. They're in first place right now in the NWL. Check out the full schedule and get your tickets at CanadiansBaseball.com or call 604-872-5232 as we're joined now by John Shannon from the 100% Hockey Podcast as we look ahead to Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Final tomorrow in Sunrise. John, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
I'm great, boys. You?
Very well, very well. You had Scotty Bowman on your 100% Hockey podcast. Game 3 aside, I'd imagine he's a pretty proud papa given what Stan's Oilers are up to these days.
You know, Scotty is an amazing person, 91 years old.
Yeah.
Sharp as a tack. This is the second time we've actually had him on the show, and one of the great reasons is that all you have to do is say 3 or 4 words, and then Scotty will tell you a story. And he's an amazing storyteller. Still has a fantastic memory. You know, not afraid to make fun of himself, as he told Chris Knobloch. You and I have a record. First 2 years as coaches in the NHL, we both got to the Stanley Cup Final, but I hold a better record than you. I lost my first 12 Stanley Cup Final games. And he says, I don't expect that record to be broken.
Yes, but John, you and I both know it was a strange situation where all the expansion teams were in one division, and Scotty went up against the mighty Montreal Canadiens. They weren't going to win a game then.
2 series against Montreal,
one
and
against
then
Boston.
The third series against Boston with the famous Bobby Orr goal that ended the series in 1970. Yeah, I know it. But you know, Scotty loves to tell stories. He's so much fun, and you know, he's really very proud, as you said, Donnie, of what Stan has done as a manager, and was actually got quite emotional about it when you consider that at the age of 34, Stan was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and battled through cancer to maintain and continue his career as a manager in the NHL.
Yeah. I think I mentioned it, but Scotty, coach of the St. Louis Blues, way back when. What did the Panthers show you as we get to the Stanley Cup Final, this year's Stanley Cup Final? What did they show you in Game 3, John?
Well, I think they showed how deep they are. I think they showed truly how they know how to play to the line and don't go over it. You know, and just when you look at the balance of all their lines, when you think that Lundell, Luosterainen, and Marchand are their third line, and the fact that they're able to do what they do. Alexander Barkov has yet to score a goal in this series, and they're playing so well. They have learned to play a certain style of hockey that very few can replicate. That physical side, and yet there's enough speed on that team, and they are so deep. And when I haven't even talked about Sergei Bobrovsky being in goal. So the Florida Panthers are the full package, the real deal, whatever cliche you want to do. And the Oilers are in tough, and so much of the onus now is on Connor and Leon to try to find a way to break through all that hard checking.
Brad Marchand, I tell you, you hate him, but you love to have him on your team. And the numbers we're hearing about July 1st for him, John, crazy. You know, 3 years, maybe $8 million a year. Boy, is he...
He actually wants 4, I think, Rick, now. I think he's up to a year. But here's the thing, and people in Vancouver understand this this type of mentality. You ask for 4 years, and then you get bought out in the 4th year, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, at the age of 37, can he still play? absolutely, he can still play in that appropriate spot. I don't think that Brad Marchand is a number one winger anymore, but he certainly can be a useful 17 to 18 minute player on any team. And you know, the team that you guys cover more than anything else would love to have a Brad Marchand. I know the people in Toronto, when they talk about changing the DNA, they're looking and pointing at guys like Brad Marchand to change the DNA. So he will be a hot commodity on July 1st. And guys, don't laugh. He might win the Conn Smythe Trophy.
Yeah.
You know, when you think the way he's dominated so many things in this series, and much of the voting is done because of this series, Brad Marchand might be at the top of people's voting list.
Absolutely. What did you think of Gary Bettman's comments about Florida isn't having any benefits because of all the tax, no tax state? And he also mentioned, you know what, a practice facility, a nice one, makes a difference, something we don't have in Vancouver.
I've never heard that before. That's new.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I think that, you know, the commissioner has to sing from that hymn book about the tax situation.
Yep.
When it's the imbalance that occurs in the Florida teams, Texas, Washington State,
Nevada.
Tennessee, Nevada, all these states that don't have taxes of that level. Now, you know, you still pay 37% tax. It's that extra 10 to 15%. Teams in California, teams in New York State, teams in Canada get taxed a little heavier. But let me ask you this, Rick.
Yeah.
If you were Vinny Viola and somebody said, boy, you've got it great. You're so lucky. You know, you've got a season ticket base that's pretty strong. You've got a franchise value that's something. Would you consider trading your team for the New York Rangers?
Yeah.
And the answer is there's not a chance you'd consider. So the balance that we're talking about exists in certain scenarios. The amount of season ticket holders and the price of the tickets in New York are so much higher. The corporate sponsorships are so much higher. Everything in the end works out.
Yep.
It does work out. Right now, when things are hot in Florida, with the teams playing as well as they have the last 7 or 8 years, we all think that Florida is the place to be, but nobody's clamoring and talking about the tax situation in Tennessee. Yeah. Nobody's talking about and clamoring about the tax situation in Seattle. So from that perspective, it's all cyclical, and it will all work its way through, and the strong franchises will always be the strong franchises no matter what tax base there is.
Right.
Meanwhile, here, Abbotsford versus Charlotte in the Calder Cup Final. I say here, but the first game's in Charlotte. The Calder Cup goes back to 1937. How significant is it for an organization, an NHL organization, to win an AHL title, the Calder Cup?
Well, history tells you that certain franchises have been able to take advantage of it. And to me, the best example of that were the Tampa Bay Lightning. When you think of the development of some of their, when Tampa first started to play so well in the mid-teens, John Cooper was, you know, that's where his coaching began in their organization. And I don't know if you remember the triplets, Andre Palat, Nikita Kucherov, Tyler Johnson. That was the number one line in Norfolk. That was where their farm team was that year. So you can use your American League team to huge advantage if you're patient with it. And so I certainly don't think it hurts what's going on in Abbotsford and what the Canucks have done there. And if you can get experience, particularly for guys like Artur Shilovs, get him high-profile playoff experience, then you know darn well it's going to help the big club.
Yeah, it's a big story here, John. The crowds have been fabulous.
It should be. It really should be. And finally, though, you know, how many years have we waited for people to go to that Abbotsford arena and fill it? Mm-hmm. Or whether it was when Calgary was running their hockey team there, you know, I mean, finally, driving into the Fraser Valley and watching a hockey game has proved to be quite enjoyable for a lot of people.
Yeah. The only thing better is if the farm team was in Oliver, John.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We'd be jamming in those 800 people into the arena. It would be ticket prices would be through the roof.
Oh yeah. Hey, one more. Lane Lambert's going to join us next head coach, or the new head coach of the Seattle Kraken. What sold the Kraken on Lane Lambert, who was with the Leafs last year?
With the Leafs last year, remember, was also was with Trotz for a long time.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think his attention to detail, and I think a lot what he's learned from guys like Barry, and then he got the opportunity to coach the Islanders. I suspect that the second time around, Lane will be much more himself as a coach. He had a tremendous amount of influence with the Maple Leafs on the offensive side of the puck, and I think the players liked being around him. But the situation in following Barry, working for Lou on the island, would have been a very difficult one for him. So to now have an opportunity without being in anyone's shadow, with a team that does have some good young talent, I think will be a real positive for Lane. You guys remember, you would, Donnie, Lane was a pretty good hocky player, too.
He was, yeah.
First round pick, came out of the Saskatoon Blades, and had an eye injury at one point that affected his career. But this guy's got pretty good pedigree when you consider the coaches he's been around and the amount of hockey he's played.
Yep, you mentioned Barry Trotz, and he followed him around and helped him win a Stanley Cup. Hey, John, thanks for this. All the best.
Nice to see Rick back. I don't know what those holidays. What's that holiday stuff?
It's not holidays. It's called the flu.
I got to get his agent.
I waited all spring for hot weather, and the hot weather comes, I get the frickin' flu. Explain that.
Yeah, he'll be okay.
No, you know what? Just drink your orange juice, walk 10,000 steps a day, and you never get it. You never get sick.
There you go.
I do with the dog. I walk 10,000 steps a day.
All right, John. Thank you. Thanks for the advice.
Yeah,
appreciate it.